All right, hello seventh graders. I'm going to go over some of the math material with you today. So this will help you with the packets that were sent home. Just give you a little bit of more explanations, make sure that you understand what is required and what needs to be done. So a couple things here. Go ahead and have your book. If you don't have your book, run and get it, pause and come back. And then also, if you want to bring the sheet too, I'm going to go over the lessons that are listed here and some of the introductory information. So the instructions from paper packet number 1 and your textbook there. Obviously, class is a little different. Here, I'm here in our room, but no students. So you guys are at home. And just want you to understand what's required as you complete these math problems to be turned in. So I'm going to be assigning some lessons, and you need to look, as always, at the examples. A lot of this stuff is working with formulas, so you're going to look through it, work the problems, okay? Several items that you need to understand. With this distance learning, you're going to be turning every lesson back in, okay? So you are going to need to tear it out of the book. Now, we've not done that before. So if you want to tear the sheets out carefully before you start or after, it doesn't make any difference there. Now, the other part of this is these lessons are going to be graded. This is how you will receive a grade. I will not be giving you a quiz or tests. So I know that excites you to think you won't have to take a math test. But these lessons will be counted as grades. So do your very, very best on each and every problem, on each and every lesson. Now understand that you are not to use a calculator. You are to work out all the problems and show your work so that I can see where you've worked the problems. If you do it on a separate sheet, just please make sure you include that with everything that you turn in. Now, something to help everybody, which is perfectly fine. You're allowed to do this, and parents, it's fine. If your parents would like to check your lesson once you finish one, they can go through by any means necessary to check the problems for accuracy. And if you miss any, once they've gone over it, then you can go right ahead and correct them. All right, just make sure you do your own work and do not use a calculator yourself. So as you're able to correct these, just hoping, number one, that you get enough practice to learn how to do these problems and work them. Then also we want to make sure that we do well so that we can get a good grade for each of these lessons, okay? So just do your very best. I know sometimes math is not your favorite subject, but work hard at it, get them finished, and then submit them at the particular time. Hope all of you are doing well, and I do miss having you in class. Maybe we'll be able to see you soon. What I want to do real quick in this video is just walk through each lesson with you. There's not a lot of problems to work because, again, most of this information in the next few sections is not difficult at all. We're going to continue on using formulas where we've finding area, finding perimeter. You've been working with circles now, and so we're also going to look at finding the circumference or the area around the circle. So if you'll pick up with me then on page 321. Page 321 begins this lesson, lesson 137, of finding the circumference of a circle using the diameter. And remember, I'm not going to read all of this to you, but remember a couple important things from this lesson. The definition of circumference is listed there on 321. The length or the distance around the circle. That is what the circumference is. And there's a very particular thing that we use. You're familiar with this. You've had it in the past. Called pi. It's an irrational number that we've rounded off to 3.14. You're going to be using that. That's part of the formula. As that has been figured out, that is the way to find out the diameter and the radius, in using both of those to find the circumference. And then also we're going to be doing the area later as well. So if you turn the page to page 322, you see the details about the value of pi. Then you also see the formula. So mark that in your books there. To find the circumference of a circle, use the formula C equals pi d. So very simple. We take the diameter, multiply it times 3.14. That gives us the circumference there. And there's a reminder for you. Now you see the diagram of the circle. We know that the diameter goes all the way across that circle through the center point. Very important to understand that what the diameter is. It's a review. And then also remembering, because this is going to come up too many times, the radius is half the diameter. The radius is half the diameter, and there'll be some formulas in a moment. We'll look at finding circumference if you have the radius. And it's just 2 times pi times r, since the radius is half of the diameter. In the example problem, you see 2 different problems given to us here. All right, and they give you the diameter being 17.9 meters, and we're going to use our formula C equals pi d. We're just going to take, if the diameter is 17.9, we're going to substitute that in. So we're going to set up a multiplication problem. Very simple here, making sure that we're careful, keeping everything lined up, and we're going to count our decimal points when we're finished. So we would set up this multiplication problem, working it out to arrive at our answer. Now, they have, as you see there in your book, they have rounded to the nearest tenth. Just follow your directions. If you look at this section of practice problems, it does tell you to round off to the nearest tenth. So always be aware of what decimal place they want to take you to. Now, the other example, okay, we would work this out with the decimal. The other thing to keep in mind is you can also use the fraction form of pi. Instead of using 3.14, sometimes it is better to use 3 1/7. There's a mixed number that is the same value of pi. And so in this one, since the diameter is 5.5 inches, since we have a fraction, a mixed number here, we're going to set up our problem like this, okay? And we're going to multiply with our mixed numbers instead of using the decimal. Now, could you change 5.5 to 5.5 and then times 3.14? Yes, you could do that, but many times it is more simple to do it this way. We're going to make both of these improper fractions and continue with the multiplication. Down below in 12.18, if you see there on page 322, we find the circumference of a circle using the radius. And I already alluded to it a moment ago, but there is the formula for it. C equals 2 pi r. Remember, our factors in multiplication, we can multiply in whatever order we would like. So 2 times 3.14 is always going to be 6.28. So if we go in that order, that's fine. Then we'd be multiplying 6.28 times 8, for example, in that first one. So if the radius was 8 inches, our circumference using the radius is 2 pi r. We can multiply pi times r, then times 2, or we can go 2 times pi and then times r. And that's what they've done here in the book. 2 times 3.14. That gives us 6.28. Then we're going to take the 6.28 and multiply it times our radius, making sure we get our decimal point in there correctly. I'm not going to multiply those out for you. You know how to multiply. Just be careful with your decimal point in those. So two ways again in this section to use a fraction or the decimal. All right. And then, of course, as always in sharpening skills, you have some review problems. So go ahead and look with me with the next lesson. The next lesson you'll do is lesson 38, and it's listed here in your paper packet. And you see there, we're going to find the area. So instead of finding that distance around the circle, okay, we're now going to find out the measurement of the area inside the circle, okay? So just a different formula for you to memorize. And they tell us here the formula, A equals pi r squared. Now, remember that order of operation tells us here that we must do the power first. We're always going to take the radius information and square it. All right, so I'm going to jump all the way down to example B there, where they tell us that the radius is 6 inches. So, of course, I'll substitute in here, okay, pi times 6 squared. I must square first, okay, and then I'll multiply it times pi. And then we will get the area there. Now, remember, when we're finding area, we want to list our answer as square inches, not just inches when we finish that. The other information, the bold print up there in that first paragraph, keep that in mind as well. Round off the answer to hundredths unless otherwise instructed there. So the example that is done for you there comes out to hundredths, but we want to make sure, hundredths, remember, 2 decimal places is what you're going to round each answer to. All right, so on page 325, do look at that chart at the top of the page. I just want to remind you real quick, look at number 7 with me. Number 7 there, we're going to fill in the missing blanks. They give you the radius on 7, then they want you to fill in the diameter, okay? Remember, the radius is half the diameter. So we take 2 times the radius to get our diameter. So it's real simple on number 7. The radius is 2. The diameter is 4 inches. Then we're going to use the 2 formulas that we've learned. Circumference, pi d, or 2 pi r. You can use either one you want. You're going to get the same answer. And then the area is figured with the area equals pi r squared. All right, memorize those formulas, class. Work out those problems, okay? Then looking ahead, guys, move right along with me to lesson 139. 139 is a review lesson. Now notice on it, you're going to need your tools. You're going to need a compass and a protractor to complete some of those problems, all right? So do all of that review lesson, of course. Now turning on to page 328 and 329. Hopefully you're following along with me here still. On page 328, you notice that lesson 140 is a test. We won't be taking that test. You'll get to move right on. I'll grade this review lesson, give you a grade for it. On page 329, you do not have to do that page. You can skip that extra work there, the problem-solving strategies. Hey, if you got time and you want to go ahead and do it, by all means, go ahead, but I won't be grading that. All right, then, move right ahead. We start not hard at all. We start a new unit. Solid geometry. Dealing with shapes and some solid shapes or some 3D shapes that you'll be learning to recognize, and then finding what's called surface area of a cube, for example. And you think about a box or something that not only has just one side and face, but has several faces and a top and a bottom. This is a solid object, a 3D object. And to find the surface area, we're going to be finding things like the top and all the sides and the bottom and adding all together. Now, doing that, there's some special formulas that we can learn. Now, this first lesson, lesson 141 on page 330, gives you these shapes that you need to be familiar with. You need to recognize them, and you need to also understand their definition and answer those questions about that. And then the page 331 starts in explaining more what I was showing you with this object and the surface area. You can read more about that on the bottom of that page, making sure that you see, we find the area of all of those faces, and then we would add them together. That has been figured out for us. So we're going to look at some different formulas. And the first one is described as the surface area of a rectangular solid. That's given to you at the bottom of page 331. Look at it. SA equals 2 times the length and width plus 2 times the width and the height plus 2 times the length and the height. That's 2, 4, 6 different faces. Again, as you think of this object, here's a rectangular solid. All right? We have 2 the same size, 2 the same size, and then the top and the bottom, however you want to turn that shape. Not hard at all to use, not hard at all to learn. Just remember those formulas there. One other term for you on page 332 is also something called the lateral surface area. The lateral surface area does not include the top and the bottom. So it's only part of that equation. Lateral surface area, 2WH plus 2LH. Now in your work class, you need to understand these concepts, but in your work, you're just going to mainly be taking the information given to you, the different measurements of the length and the width and the height, plugging it in and using those formulas and solving. You're used to doing that. But the biggest thing that I caution you is try to memorize these formulas. Okay, you'll be able to look them up. You know, you're not going to be tested, so you're going to be able to look back. But it's going to be good for you to remember each of these. Now, the next couple lessons just have some different formulas. Lesson 142, just a brand new solid shape and its formula. The surface area of a cube. And it's real simple. Surface area equals 6E squared. We square the edge. They're using the term edge instead of side. It's the same thing. They're going to square the side. That would find the area of 1. Then there's 6 of them, all the same size. So that's why we multiply it times 6. So take one side and find the area of it, then multiply it times 6. So that is the formula there. 6E squared. And then on the next page, again, the lateral surface area, it just leaves off the top and the bottom. So 4E squared. Again, I don't think you'll have any difficulty at all in working these problems. Lesson 143, surface area of a square pyramid. Another formula for you. Now, the book does a great job. Look at example A carefully on your own as they describe to you that square pyramid and how we can take each section and shape to be able to figure it all out. They explain it to you well. But on page 336 at the top of the page is where they give you the actual formula. Okay, so that other example was just an explanation of how we got the formula. Then on this top of 336, you're actually given the formula that you need to remember and use. So the surface area of a square pyramid, we got some triangles in there, that's why it's a little different, is 4 times 1/2 BH plus B squared. So what we have is several triangles, 4 triangles that we're going to find. Remember the formula for the area of a triangle is 1/2 BH. And then there's 4 of those. So 1/2 BH has to be done first. That's why it's in parentheses. Then we're going to multiply it times 4. Then we find the bottom. The bottom, it's a square. Square pyramid. How do we find a square? S squared or B squared. They use B for the base. Right? Then add the two together. All right? So that's not going to be very, very difficult for you guys to work those problems out using all of those formulas. So again, this is how you're getting your grade. So I do want you to work all of these problems. And then for this packet, one more lesson included in this section, lesson 144. One more shape, the cylinder. The cylinder has a top and a bottom that are circles. And then think about it, it's a circle all the way around. So on page 338, they show you the base and the height, and then that lateral surface area. Now, obviously, since the circle's involved, then pi is going to be involved. And we're going to take variation of the formulas that we learned about the area and of a circle, and we're going to implement it in with this surface area of a cylinder. So right there in the middle of the page, you see the formula. Surface area equals 2 pi RH plus 2 pi r squared. So you're going to do all of the math. You look at the example that's done for you. You're going to multiply the 2, pi, r, and h. Multiply all that together. Then you're going to multiply the 2 pi with the 3 squared. Now remember, square that first. 3 squared in that example problem be 9 as we multiply all that together. And then finally, you're going to add those two amounts together, just substituting in, working out the formula. Be careful. Look back at the example problems. It's a lot of multiplication. It's a lot of memorizing formulas. That's all there is to it in this whole group of lessons that you're going to be doing for me. Now keep in mind a couple things. Do your own work. Don't use a calculator. It can be checked by parents and then corrected. You need to make sure you're the one correcting it, and I need to see your work. Tear out the pages from the book. That's what you'll turn back into me so that I can grade it to give you a grade. Now, saying all that, I'll also add this on there. You can ask questions. If you have a specific question for me, go into My Schoolworks. Your parents can help you to log in there. Go to Messages. Go to Compose a Message. In the blank of who it's to, just start typing my name, Strickland. Make sure you get the right one. Click on it, and then you can, in the body of that email form, you can ask me whatever question you'd like, and then I will respond to you and give you an answer to help you along. Okay? Work hard on this, and I hope to see you soon. Have a good day.